Welcome to the Action Network studio in New York City. I'm Maria Marino, and this is Green Dot Daily. We're live every weekday at 3 Eastern, or in this case, a few minutes after, on our YouTube channel and the Action app. You can also catch us on demand if you miss us live. Coming up on the show today, we'll get some MLB props from Sean Koerner, and he will grade a WNBA prop chosen by yours truly. Charlie DiSturco will also come hang out with me in studio. But we start with big news in the world of golf as the PGA Tour, DP World Tour, and the Public Investment Fund, which owns and operates LIV Golf, announced a newly formed commercial entity to unify the sport. There's a whole lot to unpack in that one sentence, so we bring in Action Network writer Jason Sobel to help break this down. What do we know so far about this merger and what it means for golf?
Yeah, so Maria, still more questions than answers. I don't think anyone saw this coming, and not just myself, not just others in the media, not just the public, but a lot of the players as well. I know we'll get to that, but what we do know so far is that Jay Monahan and Yasser Al-Rumayyan, who's the governor of the Public Investment Fund, they have gotten together and created essentially a merger between not only the PGA Tour and LIV Golf, but the DP World Tour, formerly the European Tour, as well. What does that mean moving forward? Well, we'll have the status quo at least through the remainder of the 2023 seasons for those respective tours. But starting with the 2023-24 campaign, I don't know. All bets are off right now. Again, could we see the likes of Brooks Koepka and Phil Mickelson and Dustin Johnson, Cameron Smith playing PGA Tour events? Absolutely. Will there still be LIV events? Could a Rory McIlroy actually go play in a LIV event in a team concept? I think that's still very much on the table. I'm not sure how many of the details have really been hashed out by the powers that be who have made this merger. I think there's still a whole lot left to be decided. That, I know we feel like there are a lot of unknowns and a lot of questions for us. I think even the folks that created this merger have questions of their own still moving forward.
In the last year or so, we have heard about so much tension between the PGA Tour and LIV Golf. So how does that tour reconcile partnering with LIV after previous comments made criticizing the morality of the LIV Tour?
It's a great question. It's a great point. And quite frankly, I've said from the beginning of this that I thought Jay Monahan, who he's the figurehead, of course, being the commissioner of the PGA Tour, but of course he's going to get most of the spotlight on him. It's not just him. There are other members of the policy board, other people that are executives in charge, but Jay Monahan is going to get most of that spotlight. And so I've said from the beginning that the arrogance towards LIV Golf, thinking, you know what, they're not going to take away a market share from us. They're not going to steal our players. I thought that was the wrong play. And I thought that over the past year, in saying that, hey, LIV Golf, it's essentially, it's bad people running a bad league and you shouldn't watch it. The PGA Tour is everything good about what golf should be, and they're wrong. They're the bad people over there. It was a really, really poor, I think, image to represent. And now, how do they reconcile that? It's a great question. My answer to that is they probably just don't. They probably just move forward. I mean, this all feels like a simulation anyway. It feels like we're in season 5 of Succession with the board making deals, and most of the people don't even know what's going on behind closed doors anyway, including the players. But my guess is that when Jay is asked, hey, you said this, and this about the Public Investment Fund, about LIV Golf, about those players, do you take it all back now? Go, water under the bridge, don't worry about it. And I just don't think they'll have to reconcile it, quite frankly.
Well, you're someone that's so dialed into this sport, and it seems like you were shocked about the news, and the players as well. So how do the players feel based on your reporting just about this merger, especially those who stayed loyal to the PGA Tour?
Yeah, again, another good question. Another one that, look, I don't have a great answer to yet, but I can tell you that a very, very small number of people knew this was even in the works. We have talked in the past about there being a hypothetical of the PGA Tour and LIV Golf getting together. I never saw it happening. I mean, if we want to talk about people that didn't see it happening, Yasser Al-Rumayyan from the Public Investment Fund was on CNBC earlier today. He was asked whether Greg Norman, the CEO and commissioner of LIV Golf, whether he knew about it. And he said, yeah, sure. I told Greg a few minutes ago. Nobody knew about this, including most of the players. There are a lot of players who are on social media right now on both sides saying, all right, I guess we're all together again. I think the PGA Tour players are a little more incensed about what's going on than the LIV Golf players. Remember, the PGA Tour asked these players for loyalty. They asked them to remain loyal to the PGA Tour. Don't go anywhere. What you're doing is right. What those players are doing is wrong. And essentially, those players who left are now being rewarded. You got your signing bonus. You got to play for a lot of money on LIV. Now, sure, with open arms, we'll welcome you back to the PGA Tour starting in 2024. I think there are going to be a lot of players. There's a player-only meeting at the RBC Canadian Open at Oakdale Golf and Country Club in Toronto later this afternoon. I think that when the players meet with the PGA Tour brass in attendance, there will be a lot of players that are upset about what's going on. And yes, they're going to have plenty of questions, just like the rest of us.
This is tough to process. You mentioned any tournament changes likely wouldn't take effect until next season. The PGA Tour is scheduled to end this season in late August, the DP World Tour and LIV Golf in November. Jason Sobel, thanks for joining us on Green Dot Daily.
Thank you, Maria. Appreciate it.
So reactions are pouring in on social media. Recent PGA Championship winner Brooks Koepka trolling outspoken anti-LIV Tour Golf Channel commentator Brandel Chambly with welfare check on Chambly. Phil Mickelson with simply awesome day today. And finally, Mackenzie Hughes, 67th in the world golf rankings, expressing a common sentiment among PGA players so far. Quote, nothing like finding out through Twitter that we're merging with a tour that we said we'd never do that with. Green Dot Daily is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $1,000 paid back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. To the WNBA. Here's a look at the standings about 2.5 weeks into the season. The reigning champion Las Vegas Aces are unbeaten at 6-0. The Connecticut Sun are close behind with one loss so far, and a 4-game win streak by the New York Liberty just ended Sunday at the hands of the Chicago Sky. Action Network Director of Predictive Analytics, Sean Koerner, joins me now. And the top two teams square off tonight. It's a rematch of last year's finals. The Aces visiting Connecticut at 7 Eastern. Who you got?
So I'm going with the Sun, +6 here. Give me the points. Now, the Aces are clearly the best team in the league. I don't think there's any dispute over that. But this is just way too many points to be giving the Sun on the road. And while I wouldn't say the Aces 6-0 record is misleading, they've had a few things go their way this season. And the first is they've had the easiest schedule to date by far. Granted, they never have to face themselves. So that's always going to kind of help their strength of schedule ranking. But they've had an easy schedule to start. Plus, when they faced the Sparks in back-to-back games, that's when the Sparks was dealing with the whole team. It was like dealing with an illness. They had a cluster of key players ruled out for both of those games. So they've just had an easy schedule this year. The second is, it's kind of a quirky step, but they've allowed the lowest free throw percentage in the league at 74%. That's something that's completely out of their control. So that's kind of influenced some of their margin of victory stats. And the third is, Jackie Young is one of the best players in the league, but there's no way she could keep up this start. She shot 60% from the field on the year, 52% from beyond the arc. It's highly unlikely she keep that up, especially against the Suns defense that has allowed the lowest three-point percentage in the league at 29%. So I think the Sun are the type of team that can slow the Aces down. And the Aces barely won their last two games. They beat the Dream by 5. They barely beat the Fever by 4 points. So the Sun will be their toughest test so far this season. And on the other side, I love the Sun. They were expected to take a step back after losing John Cole Jones to the Liberty this offseason. However, they still have Alyssa Thomas, Dwana Bonner, Brianna Jones. So they have 3 really good players. And Brianna Jones has been playing a ton of minutes lately. She's cleared 34 minutes in 3 of their past 4 games, mainly due to, avoiding foul trouble. She's going to be key for tonight's matchup. and their top offseason acquisition, Tiffany Hayes, has been playing lights out the past 4 games. And I said that she was going to be the key to this team going forward. So the Sun are good enough to keep up with the Aces, especially at home. I would not be shocked if they manage to upset them tonight, but just give me the 6 points. I'll take the points, and I like them to cover here.
You mentioned the margin of victory for the Aces. So they're at a plus 18 point differential on the season, which is nuts comparatively. But it points to a lot of those things you talked about regarding their schedule and who they face. So maybe the Sun can help bring that number down a little bit. By the way, these two teams will play each other again on Thursday at 7 Eastern. So this little rivalry is just beginning to get renewed. All right, it's that time. It's my turn to give out a pick for tonight. So I have selected a player prop, and Sean, being the expert that you are going to grade me. You ready for this?
Ready.
Okay. Now, I'm glad you're ready. I'll try to match that energy. I'm looking at this LA-Seattle game. So Sparks visit the Storm at 10 p.m. Eastern over on CBS Sports Network. And my prop is Chiney Ogwumike to go over 12.5 points, which I was able to grab at plus 100. So I'm really thrilled about that even money, honestly. Chiney is with LA, if you didn't know. And she has actually hit this mark in 3 of 4 games played this season. She's averaging 12.8 points per game, but that number is misleading to me. So you mentioned the illness that the LA Sparks team experienced. She was part of that. She missed a game against Las Vegas. And then in her first game back, it was Friday, June 2nd. She fouled out against Phoenix, played a season low in minutes, only had 2 points. The other side of this is Seattle is they have the worst defensive rating in the WNBA. LA has the second best offensive rating in the WNBA behind only Las Vegas. These two teams also played each other on Saturday. In that game, Chiney had 15 points, 7 of 11 from the floor in 30 minutes of action. Also, her sister Nneka in that game scored 27. I just think Seattle will have their hands full with both of those players, and I trust Kurt Miller, even on the road, to have his team prepared on 3 days rest. So I think Chiney can definitely go over that 12.5 points mark. What say you, Sean?
So I'm giving this one a B, mainly because I'm lined up with the projection with the 12.5 points.
Okay.
But I love your reasoning. I love that you pointed out the fact that she only played 20 minutes because she fouled out. A lot of people are going to overlook things like that. And this matchup is perfect for her. She scores most of her points inside the restricted area, and the Storm have allowed a league high 46% of their points in the restricted area. So this is an excellent matchup. The only wrinkle I would throw in there is her playing time could be impacted by Ezra Stevens making her season debut tonight. Now, I don't know how much she's going to play. It could be like 10 to 15 minutes. They might cap her, but she could certainly eat into Chiney's playing time. So if you still think Chiney's going to play more than 25 minutes, I would say there's value on this. But if you think Stevens will cut into her playing time at all, that's going to hurt. But, she scored 15 points the last time these teams met up. It does make sense for her to get a ton of playing time tonight. So overall, I do think there is some value here. I would just caution that I don't know how much Ezra Stevens is going to play tonight.
I admit I did not think about that playing time potentially changing. We shall see what happens. But there it is. There's my pick. And Sean, I appreciate it. We're going to actually take this time to switch gears, to switch hats. More specifically.
We're going to baseball.
Yeah, because you wear a lot of hats.
It's a completely different mindset. So, okay, I'm ready to go.
Wow, that didn't take long. All we need is a phone booth now. All right, as we go to baseball here, what are the props that you're on tonight?
So I have 2 strikeout props. The first one's an over. I'm going with Louis Varland over 4.5 strikeouts. So you can get it at minus 135. Now, Varland has a 8.6 K per 9 rate over, 7 starts this season. But based on his underlying metrics, it should be about a full strikeout higher. I think it should be closer to 9.5, just based on his underlying metric. All 4 of his pitches have generated a 23% or greater whiff rate. That's just really good. And a lot of that has to do with adding mile and a half to his fastball this season. His fastball sitting around 95 miles an hour, which has made all of his pitches tougher to time up, especially his changeup. That's generated a 35% whiff rate on the season. Plus, he throws the ball in the zone a ton. He throws the ball in the zone at the 3rd highest rate in the league, which means he's not going to be wasting a ton of balls and pitches, and he should be able to get to a 2-strike count pretty often, which is really good for K props. But over the last 2 starts, he's actually thrown his cutter at the highest rate, which is good timing because he's facing the Rays tonight, which are the 3rd worst team in the league against cutters this season. So I think this sets up nicely for his over, and I'm projecting this closer to -180. So I love the value we're getting at -135 right now.
I give that a B. No, I'm just kidding. What else? I wouldn't even begin to grade you on baseball props. No. What else you got?
I give any over a B. I love betting unders. So this one I'm going to have to give myself an A+ because it's an under, and it's Clark Schmidt under 5.5 strikeouts. So you can get it even money. But Schmidt's sort of the opposite of Varland, where, Schmidt has a 10.5 K per 9 on the season, but all the underlying data suggests it should be closer to 8.5 Ks per 9, especially since he's throwing his sinker a bit more. His sinker has only generated a 7% whiff rate on the season. And really, a sinker is just a pitch you throw to essentially let the batter hit the ball in play. You're ideally trying to get weaker contact. And he's been throwing his sinker at a much higher rate the past 3 games. He's thrown it over 30% of the time in 2 of his last 3 starts. So his K rate will plummet even more if he continues with this trend, throwing his sinker that much. Plus, he tends to get pulled after just 85, 90 pitches. So that does lower his upside in this market. Based on my projections, I'm projecting him to finish with 5 strikeouts exactly 22% of the time. So that's his most likely outcome. So the fact that we could get under 5.5 is offering a ton of value. I'm projecting this closer to -180 as well. So I love the fact that we can get this at even money.
You, sir, are an A+ in my book. Sean Koerner, thanks for the time.
Thank you, and go Sun tonight.
Yeah. Sticking with baseball, check out some key matchups for this Tuesday evening. Twins take on the Rays in a battle of first-place teams. The NL East leading Braves host the Mets. Also, Hunter Brown and the Astros will face Kevin Gossman and the Blue Jays. So, Charlie DiSturco, you're in studio with me. Always fun to have you. You're excited about this slate tonight. I mean, every team is playing. So, I mean, what else has you excited?
I'm excited for the call-up of Elly De La Cruz. The Reds' top prospect gets the call. We talked, Sean Koerner's come on multiple times about this. I love that he's getting called up right now. He has huge power, already hitting cleanup tonight for the Reds. They're trying to make that push around, a little bit under 500. So I like their chances, and I'm on him for total bases tonight. I mean, why can't you? You got to join the hype. You got to get on the Elly De La Cruz train, so let's ride.
All right, I am joining that hype train with you. So you also have a column up on Action Network breaking down your best plays of the day. Why don't you give us a little sample of what you like, starting with the aforementioned Mets and Braves?
Yeah, so Mets, Braves. Mets are not playing too hot, but I do like the over in this matchup. If you've seen anything as far as my articles go, I write about Bryce Elder and how lucky he is thus far. He has a 1.92 ERA, expected ERA up at 4.16. A lot of that is because he throws a lot of pitches outside the strike zone. He only had 37.7 zone percentage, and DeBundo likes to call him a nibbler. He nibbles on the zone, tries to get the calls from the umps. And the Mets, they don't chase pitches out of the zone. The one thing that the Mets are really good at is that they draw walks and they don't strike out a lot. They force the ball in play, and against a pitcher like Elder, who can limit barrels but is not great at getting those swings and misses, unless he's getting those calls a few inches off the plate, the Mets are going to be able to get runners on base, and I think they're going to be able to convert here. And then opposite him, Carlos Carrasco. He is just a mess right now, a mid-5 as far as expected ERA goes and actual ERA, so there's no positive or negative regression due for him. He's just not that good. And his velocity, it's because they sits in the low 90s. He's a very hittable pitcher. His control has kind of gone. So the Braves, they have a great matchup here. They're third in isolated power against right-handed pitching. Carrasco has a problem with expected slugging and expected batting average. He relies on grounders. Well, he's not really having that much success right now. Expected batting average has risen. So when you look at these two pitchers, I'm expecting both of them to struggle. And then the Mets, they have a bottom 10 bullpen. So even if we get 4 or 5 runs out of the first 5 innings and the bullpens turn it over, I'm expecting a few extra runs out of the Braves and Mets offense here late.
I'm not a big baseball bettor, but if there's a game that you want to bet an over and the Mets are playing, it's when Carrasco is pitching. So there you go. What's another game that you're thinking about for tonight?
Yeah, so Seattle, San Diego. Joe Musgrove is my guy, despite him putting the Mets out of their misery last wild card. I like the under in this matchup. Musgrove has been a positive regression candidate for some time now. If you look at, he's gotten 2 back-to-back quality starts under his belt. He came back from injury, so he struggled a bit in the early going. But now he's improved his expected batting average. His hard hit rate is just less than a third, so 32%. So it's incredible numbers that he's putting up, and his command's above average. He's just not striking out as many batters. But that doesn't matter when you're inducing soft contact and you're limiting expected batting average. And so when you look at his ERA, it's 4.71. But when you look at expected metrics, they're actually down in the mid-3s. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that his left on base percentage is less than 10% than his career average right now. So he's not leaving that many guys on base. And the same can be said about Logan Gilbert. You look at Logan Gilbert, he's another pitcher that I think is due for positive regression. 61.8% left on base rate. That's 10% lower than his career average. And you look at his expected indicators, expected ERA is over a run lower than actual. He's got a low walk rate, a high chase rate. He's the perfect pitcher you want in these scenarios, right? He can pitch around the zone. He gets a lot of chases because he has some great stuff as far as his arsenal goes. He's shored up across the board. Last year, I was on fading him because he struggled with hard hit rate, expected slugging, barrel rate. Well, this year, he's shored up on all of those. So you look at these two pitchers, both of them due for positive regression. Both of them have great bullpens to back them up. The Mariners are actually number 1 in xFIP the entire season, and the Padres are a top team, too. They're in the top half of the league. So I trust both bullpens to keep the runs down. Both starters due for positive regression. I like their chances here in their matchups against the Padres and Mariners. So give me the under 7.5 here.
Did I read you correctly? You made this like your best pitching matchup on the board tonight, or most exciting?
This is my favorite pitching matchup by far. I love it's Joe Musgrove. He wears an Italian horn. He preaches to my people, so I love him. And then Logan Gilbert, he's just also fantastic. I think this is the best pitching matchup as far as if you want to see a low-scoring game.
Yes.
Like we're watching 2 top arms go at it right now in interleague play.
Well, if you couldn't guess, I'm also Italian, so I mean, he's preaching to my people as well. So for more of Charlie's analysis, make sure you check out his column right now on Action Network. Thanks for hanging with me, pal.
Always a pleasure.
Remember, any picks we give out here on the show, like the ones you just heard from Charlie, you can easily reference by following Green Dot Daily in the Action app. We keep track so you don't have to. Green Dot Daily is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $1,000 paid back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's all for Green Dot Daily. I'm Maria Marino. Thanks for watching today. I will see you back here Wednesday at 3 Eastern on the Action Network YouTube channel and the Action app.